we forget, and is at threat today, is when we're together, too often we're not really together.
One of the sort of great lessons for young people, I'd say, is all these great friendships that you have, and it's easier in your day and age, keep up with them. Like they are immensely important. And if you invest in them, they can really provide just an incredible foundation for you to be happy in life, in your personal life, but also to be happy in your career.
My faith and my family, and it sounds cliche, but it is 100% true. I mean, we get up in the morning and, our kids are scattered now, and we're scattered half the time. I'm traveling. And so 8 o'clock every morning, we have a quick family call.
Sort of the secret sauce for life is perseverance, because bad things are going to happen. Setbacks are going to occur.
Position as a parent has on your kids. And lucky for me, my oldest daughter, who's in the middle there, is my life coach. Sorry.
Doesn't matter where you start, right? It all matters about what you put in it to get out, and where that would lead you to. And that work ethic, perseverance, and commitment, and not being afraid to fail.
My dad, growing up, used to encourage me to fail. And he would sit at the dinner table and ask my brother and me what we had failed at that week. And if we didn't have something to tell him, he would actually be disappointed. And so I remember coming home from school and saying, "Dad, I tried out for this and I was horrible." And he'd go, "Way to go," and high five me. And it was very confusing to my brother and me at the time, you can imagine. But I think what he was doing was redefining failure for us. Failure became not about the outcome, but about not trying.
Back home always played in my mind. Have a plan B. Yes, plan A. Some people say, "Oh yeah, I don't have a plan B because plan A is going to always work out." We didn't know a pandemic was going to hit us, and some of us might not have had a plan B. And what did? We panicked. But I had something to fall back on.
But ultimately, what we love the most, being parents and helping our children grow, helping them nurture them and their talents, building them up, being engaged. Sometimes, you got to metaphorically spank them on the butt. But that's, to me, that's the measure of success. What kind of people your children turn out to be.
It is really true that there are no straight lines in the world. And that is the advice that I give my kids all the time. You don't know where life's going to take you. So if there's an opportunity in front of you, take the opportunity. And, you might be scared. You might think you're going to fail, but you're not going to know unless you try it.
And I give the credit to my mother that said, "Go away. Get out of your comfort zone. You grow in the dark places."
My dad was an inventor. He owned a plumbing supply house, and he was an inventor. And he invented something called random acts of kindness before it was a thing. And my dad is the perfect example of how simple can be extraordinary.
How I show up as a human being really matters in their lives and will matter to others that they come into contact with.
It's never been about how much money you make or how much stature you have, but it's a question of, okay, what kind of life are you leading?
Never had a chance to talk about my dad. He's the youngest guy in the oldest photo out there. That's my grandfather, Ernesto, and my grandmother, Beatriz Santi, who never learned to speak English. My grandfather died in a coal mine collapse when my dad was 4 years old. And my dad was raised in an orphanage and had a wonderful life. He worked his way through college with a football scholarship. Spastically uncoordinated and have never played football, but he was an athlete, and he met that beautiful woman next to him there. That's my mother, who they were both grad students at Johns Hopkins University, and went on a remarkable life. He spent most of his life in the philanthropic community. He was the director of the Boston Permanent Charity Fund, and my sisters and I had 3 little sisters, had a chance to grow up watching my dad give back to the community in Boston, Massachusetts. He just a remarkable guy, and he died of a heart attack on an Eastern Airlines shuttle when he was 54 years old, and I've always said to myself, boy, if I could live past 54, I'm blessed. I'm a lucky man, and I feel very lucky today that I've been able to do that. And yeah, I wish nothing hit me more today than emotionally sitting with your dad, realizing the importance of our fathers and their impact on all of us.
I'm sure they are looking at me and looking at all our family. And at least I would hear from my mom that I still love you, son. My father would say, he says, I'm proud of you, that you have followed the principles of how to continue, how to maintain family unity, keep everybody happy, and sacrifice your utmost. Make sure that each and every member of your family is happy and successful. And I'm just glad that he's watching over me and that I have made him happy. That's a good feeling.
Ladies and gentlemen, please make your way into the ballroom. Our program is about to begin. Please welcome the president of Georgia State University, Dr. Brian Blake.
Got a little walk-up music, I like it. For those of you not from downtown or not from Atlanta, welcome to the neighborhood. Great to have you here today. It's such an honor to serve as president of Georgia State University. At Georgia State, we really thrive to provide for our faculty and 53,000 students unsurpassed connections to opportunity. Our university is deeply connected with the city and downtown around us. We are one of the largest landowners in the city of Atlanta with nearly 200 acres just blocks from here. And if you consider the metro Atlanta area and our 7 campuses, we have more than 50 million square feet of facilities and another total 800 acres of land. So really, this reflects the scale of the university and our reach of our university and our mission. That close relationship between the university and the city is especially visible for a conference like this as we consider hospitality. Hospitality touches many of the fields our students pursue, from business and real estate to sports, tourism, entertainment, and entrepreneurship. And nowhere is that more evident than in Atlanta. A global hub for conventions, for events, for sports, and business travel. Through our Cecil B. Day School of Hospitality, I'm beginning to wonder if that button's working. In the Robinson's College of Business, Georgia State prepares, there's another one, prepares the next generation of leaders in this dynamic industry. So it's my privilege today to introduce the Bharat Shah Leadership Speaker Series. Actually, I think it's for my 5th time. The series was established by our Georgia State Cecil B. Day School of Hospitality in honor of Dr. Bharat Shah, a highly respected leader and philanthropist in the hospitality industry. Dr. Shah envisioned a forum where iconic leaders could share their personal journeys behind their success, stories of perseverance, of commitment, faith, and the pursuit of the American dream. Over the years, the series has been inspired, but especially inspiration for students, the future leaders of our industry. Through this leadership, Mit Shah, founder and CEO of Noble Investment Group, Bharat's son, has brought us this candid conversation with remarkable leaders, as shown. Hospitality leaders such as Tom Baltimore, Chris Nassetta, Jeff Bellotti, Leslie Hale, Jim Rosolio, along with visionary entrepreneurs like Sarah Blakely, Jesse Itzler, and basketball legends like Vince Carter and Grant Hill. Dr. and Mrs. Shah are with us today, and I would like to ask them to stand so we can recognize them. Today, we are thrilled to welcome Tony Ressler to this extraordinary lineup. Tony is the co-founder, director, and executive chairman of the Ares Management Corporation, one of the world's leading alternative investment groups. A graduate of Georgetown, we need to get him at Georgia State, but a graduate of Georgetown University and Columbia Business School, he has helped build into his company into a global investment platform spanning private equity, credit, and real assets. Beyond finance, Tony has demonstrated a deep commitment to community and education. He is the founder of the Alliance for College-Ready Public Schools, co-chair of the board of LACMA, and a founding board member of the MBA Foundation. Here in Atlanta, Tony is well known as the principal owner and governor of the Atlanta Hawks Basketball Club, and through the Ressler Gertz Family Foundation, he and his wife Jamie support initiatives that expand access to education, healthcare, and workforce development across the city. In many ways, Tony's story reflects that same spirit that drives both Atlanta and Georgia State: entrepreneurship, partnership, and a commitment to building institutions that create opportunity. And in a city where sports, hospitality, business, and global events intersect every day, Tony Ressler's leadership offers exactly the perspective our students and industry leaders need and are eager to hear. His is a story of vision, leadership, and meaningful impact, exactly the kind of story the Bharat Shah Leadership Speaker Series was created to celebrate. On behalf of Georgia State's Cecil B. Day School of Hospitality and the entire university community, please join me in welcoming Tony Ressler and Mit Shah.
All right.
Hello there.
Hey, Tony. Let me just start for a moment and just say that, this series has always really been about one thing, and that is about leaders who have taken what they've earned and have felt an amazing responsibility from that. And my dear friend Tony Ressler has built a lot of things. Ares, the Atlanta Hawks, and with his amazing wife, Jamie, have led a life of philanthropy that has been deep and wide. But what I would say that is the most remarkable part of all of that is that this very same person has showed up every time. A man of incredible courage, faith, as a steward of others, and one that shows deep humanity in what you bring in every conversation, in every relationship that you have. That is what this is all about, and that is what Tony's all about. So welcome.
Well, thank you so much, Mitt. It's wonderful to be here, and I do recommend to everyone that if you're going to come out and speak at a conference, you should do it with a business partner in your basketball team after winning 10 straight games. And I'm not trying to brag, but it does make for a much more pleasant conversation. So thanks for having me.
Wonderful. Tony, I think, most people here will know you for the incredible success that you've had, again, as a business leader, a philanthropist, and certainly with our Atlanta Hawks. But I'd like to actually take us back to this kid in 5 towns and the South Shore of Long Island.
Yep.
Middle-class family. Want to chat about that. Youngest of 5 kids. So as you're looking at all this, tell us, what does that house look like?
Well, again, everyone has their own story. In my particular case, it was a house where the 5 children really brought themselves up. My folks were out. My father was trying to make a living. My mother, we're still trying to figure out where my mother was, actually. But my brothers and my sister really helped bring us all up. So I do think we started in the world earlier. We were working as as 8, 10, and 12-year-olds, whether it was cleaning swimming pools, whether it was cleaning windows, whether it was delivering flowers for the local florist. There was a whole bunch of jobs that we generally felt we could bring ourselves up in a certain way because we had to.
So you and Richard were kind of like bolted on from the very beginning. Entrepreneurs before people actually even used that word. And you mentioned, all the odd jobs. You also, you were shuttling luggage back and forth for wealthier kids that were going to camp, as a part of the process. And word has it, the whole goal was, not only just having spending money, but, getting a pair of Puma Clydes, back in the day. Like where did that come from? Like where did that entrepreneurial spirit of grit start?
Well, we get asked often if there was an objective of buying a basketball team. And I was so far away from that objective. But there was an objective to be able to buy leather sneakers to play basketball with, that I was trying to play ball every day. But my first real business was just that. I think I was 15 years old. We started a trucking company. We were delivering camp trunks for kids that would go to sleepaway camp. And I had to hire 2 people that actually had driver's licenses to run the trucks because I was too young. And we were running a pretty healthy business, delivering camp trunks, underpricing the local union-run trucking companies until a particular union official called me. I checked with my father as to who these people were. And yes, in fact, we had our trucking company shut down because the Teamsters Union thought that we were overstepping our bounds. And we grew too large too quickly, and that ended precipitously because I chose good health rather than any alternatives.
How old were we at the time?
That was at the tender age of 16 years old when I closed my trucking company because we were not using unionized drivers.
Amazing. All right, so now let's fast forward. Here's college Tony. And we end up at Georgetown. And oh, by the way, pretty good years to be at Georgetown as well. Can we talk a little bit about what led you there, and what did you think your vocation was going to be? And I'm gonna throw something up here that is very relevant to all of that. So walk us back to, that time in your life.
This is like, I feel like one of those TV shows, like This Is Your Life. I didn't see all this before. I went to Georgetown to go into the Foreign Service. I thought I was going to be a Foreign Service officer. I worked at the State Department as a senior in college on the Cambodian genocide. I had done my senior thesis. There was a Holocaust in Cambodia. During my years in college, I was actually stunned by how little the State Department actually understood about this genocide, about Cambodia. At that time, it was still just post-Vietnam. It was the Vietnamese that actually saved the Cambodians from Pol Pot, from this horrible leader that was implementing this genocide. So all I'm saying, I was so disappointed in my experience at the State Department that they had talked about being ambassadors, and that no one at the State Department at that time, it's changed, but at that time were focused on being ambassadors because that was for successful business people. And I didn't even know what that meant at the time. Yeah. I was like, well, I'd rather be one of those then. I mean, so I thought maybe you should be a successful business person rather than a Foreign Service officer. And that's when I actually pivoted and tried to learn finance and accounting, which I hadn't done in college, and went to work at a bank in the international department, a bank now part of J.P. Morgan, but called Manufacturers Hanover Trust Company. Yeah. I went through their credit training program, went to business school, and then went into finance when I took a job at Drexel Burnham right after that experience.
So there you are, Drexel Burnham.
Yeah.
Kind of a interesting place, I would say, in the 1980s. You don't want to have cinema and art kind of replace the facts, but there was movies happening at the time, and you certainly were hired and worked for one of the real icons of finance and the like. You and I were sitting at the our self-called table of wisdom a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about this time period with some of your colleagues that have gone on, and we're going to get to that in a second, to be really, really phenomenal things like you. Talk about, like, what was it like at Drexel during that formative time period coming out of school?
Well, again, so from 1985 to 1990, I'm not sure how many people in this room were actually born, but from 1985 to 1990, I worked at Drexel Burnham, which was an investment bank, unlike most other investment banks at that moment in time, where they were not, the business focus was not to finance and advise large established companies, but rather to finance and advise smaller up-and-coming companies, which of course has more risk, but certainly it attracted some of the very best folks I have ever met, and I must acknowledge some of the not very best folks I have ever met. So you had a really wide fairway of characters, which I thought was extraordinary and frankly fantastic for me for a business foundation, because you saw and met a whole lot of folks that you wanted to be more like, and you met and dealt with a whole lot of folks that you did not want to be like at all and wanted to run from. So it was an interesting experience for sure, but really an extraordinary learning experience to build a business foundation.
I shared with you that my father was a food scientist for R.J. Reynolds Foods, and so after Nabisco acquired them, you had shared with me that probably your most enlightening experience was the RJR Nabisco buyout from KKR. You're on the trading floor. Like, what is that like?
Well, my job at that moment in time, I was running the syndicate, i.e. doing new issues. So when we had a company that needed to raise capital, I was in charge of structuring that, if you will, and trying to help raise that capital. RJR was the largest buyout at the time. I can't remember. I think it was in the $30-ish billion enterprise value, which, again, when you fast forward to today, businesses in the multi-trillions is actually a relatively recent phenomenon. But this was a $30 billion buyout, the largest of its time. We were trying to raise $23 or $24 billion of capital. And to do that at that moment in time was an extraordinary undertaking. And you had to highlight various parts of the business. It was a really complicated process, but one that, again, part of my whole Drexel experience was just an incredible business foundation to build on. What companies were leverageable and should be leveraged. And again, the history of Drexel Burnham and the history of the leveraged finance world is just because you can leverage a company. And I would argue in the hospitality business, it's equally this way. Just because you can leverage a property to a certain degree in a certain market doesn't mean you should. Yeah. And the same thing goes for companies. Just because you can borrow a certain amount of capital doesn't mean it's good for the company, good for its opportunity, good for its growth, good for all the constituents, including the employees of that company. So leveraging assets, leveraging hotel properties, leveraging companies, there's a similar theme, is just because you can doesn't necessarily mean you should.
Exactly. So all of this is going on in your life, and meanwhile,
I think my wife's photos would be a lot more attractive, I think, than mine is my guess.
By the way, pretty good looking dude. And so this doesn't seem as unique with one might think, but like here you have one of the most sought after, luminous actresses of that time period. But I cannot name. I think every single person I bring to a game and we're getting together beforehand, like they'll look over and it's like, oh my God, is that Jamie Gertz? And I'm like, oh yeah. It's like, oh my God. Like it's like even today. So like at that time period, just like how did this happen?
Well, I think based on the tone, I think she made a horrible mistake. And some of us were the beneficiaries. But as I say, if you're going to get married, you should try to marry up, as they say. And I think I did. So listen, I met Jamie in 1986. We've been together really for 40 years, married for something around 37 of those 40 years. She was a really, really up-and-coming actress in 1986 and really worked up until almost the time we bought the basketball team. So she's been a working actress, which to me is pretty impressive in its own right. But she's been a working actress really until probably 11 years ago when we bought the team. And she was actually just offered a TV show at that time, and she was like, well, you and the boys are all going to be out in Atlanta going to basketball games, and I got to do a TV show here in Atlanta. That doesn't seem fair. So she decided to hang up her acting chops and decided to be a documentary filmmaker as a result. But she had 35 years of acting, so it's been amazing for her.
Amazing.
Yep.
And there's no Tony Ressler story without obviously Jamie Gertz. And I think what's fascinating about this time, you know, you're dating, you're at Drexel, there's lots going on in your life. You get married in 1989, Drexel collapses in 1990, and then you start Apollo almost instantaneously with your colleagues around that same time, and you know all of these wonderful pictures. I mean, there's a lot that's going on.
I don't know where all these pictures came from.
There's a lot that's going on, over here. Very, very attractive couple, and both of you leading these, like again, important parts of your lives and your journey, and then you get married, and now we've got Oliver and Nicholas, who's here with us, and that all, and Theo kind of came after you started Aries, but you like walk us through this time a little bit, because I think it's tangent to all of our lives. You have professionals in whatever walk of life, and you're taking risk, and you're thinking about the life you're building together and the opportunity to build a family together. And you had just gone through the fall of this company that helped kind of give you a foundational start. You're now an entrepreneur, creating what ultimately has resulted in Apollo, like one of the great financial institutions that we have. Jamie's got her incredible career going, and now you're raising a family. Like give me the Tony Ressler, like this is what's going on in my head during this time period.
Well, I'm going to say, like most everyone, I'm sure, trying to build a family. We were a two-career household, and Jamie was all about her career of being the best actress she could be, and I was trying to build an investment firm. Starting in 1990, we started over and thought we could build a credit firm, and we co-founded Apollo in 1990 and then spun out of Apollo in 2001 with Aries. But Jamie, through that whole time, was focused on building her acting career and was doing great at it. And we just, the idea of trying to have a family during that time, again, under the statement of the obvious, it's a lot tougher for women sometimes than for men, as you might imagine. Jamie was offered all kinds of roles. Nick Ressler, wherever he is, Jamie was pregnant or just had gotten pregnant with Nick, and she was offered any spot on Cheers, which turned into the most powerful, most successful TV show, and she could have had any role, and frankly, actually wasn't pregnant, just preferred to get pregnant and have a second child rather than do the most successful TV show in history, if you will. So careers, you can't always plan for all this,
right.
But trying to have two careers and build a family at the same time was a fun, interesting, complicated time. But we didn't give it the kind of thought nowadays when we look back. I mean, I didn't anticipate building an investment firm of the size Aries has evolved. We didn't think that way. We just thought we could build the best business we could, and whatever happened, happened.
So this Drexel Diaspora, which I think is fascinating. You know the pictures and the names. The audience will see it, and some incredible just leaders that came out of this platform. I'm interested. Why do you think that is in terms of just that collection of leaders and talent that came out of the kind of ashes of Drexel Burnham and have gone on to do such important things in the world of business?
again, as I said earlier, Drexel Burnham, and I'm not saying there aren't other firms with a similar ethos, but it was trying to finance the up-and-coming businesses of the future.
Yeah.
So it was financing all sorts of entrepreneurs, some well-established, some not so well-established. So you were interacting with all sorts of remarkable characters.
Yeah.
And I think over time, when you do that, many of the folks that were working at Drexel would kind of conclude, well, I could be an entrepreneur just like the person I just financed.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's the case in a whole lot of industries. But for us, you run into so many entrepreneurs, you think you could be one. I'm not saying everyone in the world should be an entrepreneur, because it's not for everyone. But starting companies, that's hard. But when you run into people that have done it, sometimes you learn a little bit more about how you might try it.
So you started one, not just one, but two. So 1997, you started Aries. You know, the culture at Aries is one that is so widely respected because it's not about hierarchy, it's about meritocracy, and it's about teamwork, you know, something that's deeply embedded in you. So this is a picture from 2024 at the end of the first quarter. It was, you know, the 10-year anniversary of taking the company public. Talk a little bit about just what you had hoped when you started the firm, as you think about, you know, the firm that existed, that you took public 2 years ago. Was a 10-year anniversary. By the way, if I take a peek up here, you know, your AUM 2 years ago was 428 billion. It's 623 billion today. You thought that, you know, by the end of 2028 you'd be at 750. So you had 29% growth last year. So all these things, like, this is not what part of the series is, but there's a vision that is going to start cascading when we start talking about the Atlanta Hawks, which is also very connected to just kind of how you think. So help us think about that journey and add in a component about the young leader that you tapped to be your successor, and how you thought about that, this firm that you found, like, just, you know, like the ability in which to have this incredible company of yours, you know, be in the hands for the next generation.
Well, again, there's a lot to that, but in 1997, we started the credit arm of Apollo, called Aries Management. We want a separate name, different function, and I must say, from 97, really for the first 20 years of Aries, I functioned as the CEO of Aries. I thought being able to grow the business, which was from maybe, I guess, zero, but to maybe $100-ish billion in assets, seemed like an extraordinary move. But those first 10 years, maybe it was 150 by the time I stopped being CEO, but we built a business where each pool of capital would complement the others. And our real estate group, and our real assets group, and our private equity group, and our liquid credit group, and our private credit group, there were no stars. Each pool was meant to truly help the other. And I think that created the culture or tried to create the culture you're describing. But also, and I think every company has to, well, certainly every person that started a company has to think about this a bit, but after 20 years, and frankly the last 5, Mike Arrighetti, who is the current CEO, who was working for me as the number 2 president of the company, and I kept telling him things to do, certainly over the last couple of years, and I kept telling him what I thought we should do in Europe and what I thought we could do across the US as we were building out our business. And he kept suggesting other things that, when I take a step back, seemed like better ideas that I was recommending to him. And after about 1.5 years or 2 years, I said to Mike, I said, Mike, you know, either you should go run another company or you should be the CEO of Aries, because I think your ideas are getting to be better than mine. And your ability to run this business to make it the best it could be, I think your strengths might be more relevant at the size we are than, frankly, mine are. And he took a step back and said, no, I like running this business, and I like where we are at Aries, and I think I should be the CEO. And why don't you become executive chairman, and let's see how it goes. And we did that, I guess, 8 years ago. And the business has gone from something like 125 billion of assets to 625 billion of assets, and has, I don't know, went up. Stock has not been great, by the way, in 2026. But since the IPO, the stock's gone up 5.5, 6 times or whatever, and done beautifully. And Mike has really earned and created extraordinary value at this business. And much more importantly, at the stage he took over, I actually believe he's been a far better CEO of a business at our size than I could have been. And sometimes the idea of knowing when your role needs to change or when you need to pivot in your career, I think is a tough decision to make. I was 57, and I did that. I didn't think I would stop being CEO until I was 65, but it's kind of like when I met my wife. I wasn't ready to get married, but you don't want to lose her.
Yeah.
Same thing, you know, in the CEO job. When you find someone that you think could be a far better CEO than you could be, hopefully you step aside and move into a different role that you could add value.
So 2014, you take Aries public to smashing success. And then 2015, you decide to buy a basketball team. And I will never forget when you called, and there's no deck, there's no IRR, there's nothing like that. I think he said a couple things to me. He says, Mit, here's what this team can be to the city of Atlanta. Here's what it can mean philanthropically in being a steward for the city of Atlanta. Here's how it can also win a championship. And oh, by the way, you know, it'll be a heck of a lot of fun. It's probably going to return what a bond returns, but it'll be a lot more fun than a bond. That wasn't right. That's actually, you know, the positive part of it. And I remember going home and talking to Reshma about it. And what's interesting is that you know, I think trust is one of those things, and reputation is one of those things that the people in your life that you have surrounded yourself with, and the people that care deeply about you, have something very much in common. They trust you, and they believe in you. And ultimately, it was like, oh my gosh, you know, if you believe in Tony, like why wouldn't you go do this with 2 hands and just like, you know, lean into to go and do that. And what a journey it has been for all the reasons you described. And you won't be able to see this, but you know, like, but the audience will. But you had this idea, and Steve Koonin and Andrew Saltzman and Stacey Building and others are here as part of the architects to really imagine and to dream boldly what has taken place. But help like kind of think about this new like business, if you will, that has such an important emotional quadrant for you and for this city, and how you thought about it, and what, you know, what makes you the most proud of what has been accomplished in these 11 years.
So again, as I've been mentioning, you know, every 5 or 10 years, for whatever reason and whatever you're doing, I'm just a huge believer in trying to create new chapters. And again, I didn't think I would be in a position to be able to buy a basketball team, but when I was in a position to buy a basketball team, I thought, one, I love basketball, love sports generally as a business, as an opportunity to play on Sundays, whatever the case may be. I have 3 sons that happen to love basketball, and I thought that would be a fantastic partnership with my 3 sons. And I actually do believe if you're going to invest in sports, and that's a whole nother industry that we could discuss, but investing in sports that has really improving, some would say extraordinary, but improving global media rights would make a decent investment, as well as all the fun attributes. And then lastly, there's no doubt that when you invest in a sports team, at least I think if you want to have longevity, you have to look at it as a community asset, and you have to be a believer in the future of that community.
Yeah.
So I actually thought then, and I think even more so now, I might add, the Atlanta market is booming. It's hugely diverse, it's hugely successful, it's moving in the right direction, continues to be. So it's a great market, Metro Atlanta. And we thought, maybe as importantly, we thought we could buy this team, this franchise, and make it better and win a championship. And as we must acknowledge, everyone at the Hawks knows this, I'm sure, particularly to our management's credit, we have made the business far better. I am sure of that. Steve, Andrew, all the management folks, we have made the business much better. We have not won a championship. And everyone hears that about as often as I can speak. And, you know, listen, we didn't get into this to make the play in the past 5 years, which we have. It's just we've been unbelievably, I think at least, successful off the court in making the business better and hopefully being a relevant member of this community. So from that perspective, I think we should be proud, and most of us are very proud of that. But we just haven't reached the success on the court that we thought would have come in our first 11 years. And understanding that you're disappointed means very little in this business. All you could do is try to get better. And that's what we're trying to do. But there are 29 other franchises and 29 other owners that are as determined as we are. And some of them have been a lot better at winning on the court than we have. And that's what we're trying to change. But the competitiveness of being a great business on and off the court is what drives us.
What have you learned different in terms of leading and stewarding a $623 billion iconic firm like Ares and leading and stewarding a business of sports?
Well, I will say what you say and do as an owner of a basketball team, which I did not fully appreciate, it's just all so much more public. Yeah. Every success you make, and certainly every mistake that you make, is just so much more public, even than running or overseeing a $625 billion asset manager. You go and give speeches about all the things Ares is doing that you're so proud of, and then you highlight that Jalen Johnson is coming out with a new shoe, and people are more interested in the new shoe. So the NBA and the power of the NBA globally is just extraordinary, more so than I appreciated, and the public nature of the business. And I would also say the public nature, the frustrating, me and my son Nick, it's Nick who actually is far more knowledgeable on the basketball side of this business than I am. It's just amazing to me because I'm so determined to win and sometimes willing to make the wrong decisions to win in the short term rather than build the foundation for the long term. That is something I suffer from. And Nick understands this business actually far better, but every good decision that we've made, for whatever reason, I get the benefit in the public. Every bad decision that I might have been part of, Nick is blamed for. It's just not a fair, as I've said to him, and I think he well knows, it's not fair in the public domain, but nobody cares. And but it is so public that your decision process, all you could do is really put in the time, put in the work, and move on, and not worry about the public, because you have to look at them as your business partner when it comes to your relevance in the community, for sure. But in your decision making on how to win basketball games, you've just got to, frankly, defer to the people that know the most. Yeah. And that's what we try to do.
Well, listen, you're in a room full of those of us in the hotel industry. So if you're not optimistic in our industry, you're in the absolute wrong place to be, because we live on optimism. And if you win a game, you're like, great, we made forecasts 1 month. We're gonna try to make another. So we've got 10 games, and so there is optimism. So that's a good place in which to start. I want to take us back to another part that's very tangent to the hospitality industry. I won't forget also, we were on a call when this global pandemic was here. We just didn't know what it meant. And I remember, that call to say the NBA is shutting down. And I walked straight into our executive conference room and I said, whatever we think this might be or might not be, it is more real than we could have imagined. So take this group back, because we all lived through this. to, maybe the one thing that you just remember, the most important thing as we went through this global pandemic. We have 1,400 members of our team at State Farm Arena. There's uncertainty everywhere. Like, just your mind as a leader, thinking about this community, again, why we did this city, this community, this team, just how you thought about that moment.
Well, when the league closed, and we had an arena and 350 or 400 employees full time, twice that, 800 to 1,000 part time. I think the first thing was what can we do to make sure we protect our employee base? Hopefully, any company, and in conjunction with Steve Koonin, who knows well, I think the first thing we thought was, let's make sure we can afford to keep everyone on, and make sure that everyone stays fully employed, fully paid, taken care of, and we'll be able to figure it out however we can figure it out. And we thought once we took the great horror and concern of employment and day-to-day existence off the table, that was the first thing we did. And I think there were other things in trying to figure out how we could remain relevant, impactful, and a positive influence in the community. I still say one of the great steps we took, really it was Steve Koonin's idea. I think I get the benefit of it, but was how can we benefit with our arena? And it was literally, again, people are forgetting, but there were 3 and 4 hour waits for voting in parts of this metro area, downtown Atlanta particularly. And I'm not exactly sure, but Steve and the head of Fulton County, we talked about how we could turn our arena into the largest voting location that ever existed. And that literally transformed waiting times from 3 hours to 15 or 20 minutes. And I will say we had 350 full-time employees, if I remember correctly, all of whom were not required to help in that process. Every single one tried to help in some way, including starting work at 6 a.m. And working 12 hours to help that voting process. So as an example, is being relevant to the community and giving back in different ways was relevant for us then, and hopefully continues to be now.
1,400 employees as a part of the Hawks family. Everyone got paid. Everyone stayed together. No one was left behind. You and Jamie also started a fund to ensure, well beyond all of that, significant amount of capital to make sure that if any member of the Hawks team, Hawks family, needed, whether it's transportation or whether it's other things, that you provided and cared for them. You said something to me very early on in our friendship that, when you show respect, you earn trust. And I think that's an important point in which to make, because in times of great crisis is when that reveals itself. And as you think about this one last picture here, I'm sorry, on the right hand side, we also feed 1 million meals. Like we have a million meals. Like our NOLA team is just very fortunate. We do this every year. It is the highlight of the things that we do. But we pack State Farm Arena with stewards in this community, and we pack 1 million meals for those that need that in our community.
Listen, if you're going to run a business, you're going to hopefully show commitment to your employee base and to the community you live in. And either you show it in good times and bad, or you're not genuine in your approach. So hopefully we've done that, and at least we're trying to do that. And I think the idea of owning a sports franchise in a city like Atlanta, hopefully virtually in any city, but in a metro Atlanta, you have to try to be a genuine member of the community. And with that, you're either committed or you're not. And we've tried to be committed. Haven't won enough. It's another form of commitment, I might add.
Can you tell how competitive this guy is?
But we've had our impact, and I think the impact has been a positive one. So of that, we are proud of.
1 million meals, the HBCU program, charter schools in LA, Centennial Yards redevelopment of downtown Atlanta. I I remember this was kind of day one. Every great city deserves a great downtown. So talk to us about what is happening in downtown Atlanta.
Well, again, the good news is I've been saying the extraordinary success and development of Centennial Yards for 11 years. And let's just say the last 3 years have been accurate. But listen, there is no doubt that for those of you that really do know Metro Atlanta, the Gulch and a subterranean group of parking lots and railroad tracks did not help downtown. And downtown Atlanta just doesn't have the kind of resources or reputation or assets, frankly, that it should. A metro area of 6.5 million people, and so much of the past 50 years has been the story of development across the suburbs, predominantly northern suburbs, but all outside of downtown Atlanta. And I do believe that when we bought the team, the idea was literally from a selfish perspective is what do we have to do to bring fans to come downtown 2 hours before a game and stay 2 hours after a game. And after a short while, what you realized is you can't just build a restaurant and hope that people will come with what downtown Atlanta really was. What we concluded is that you had to build 6, 7, 8 million square feet to transform downtown Atlanta. And we are developing the largest urban redevelopment, I think certainly in the southeastern United States, maybe in the country. There'll be $5 billion in the ground, at least 6 or 7 million square feet, 1,000 hotel rooms, 3,000 or 4,000 apartments, I think 1 million square feet of all sorts of experiential retail, an entertainment district. Again, there's going to be, there is already probably 2 million square feet in the ground, but we are well on our way. And I think there's, again, I'm partial, so don't just go by me, but there's just no doubt this is going to transform downtown Atlanta and all of Metro Atlanta, I think. It's going to be an extraordinary development, something all of us are going to be proud of. A huge number of local investors, in addition to institutional capital. So it's been a really remarkable 11-year run. I can't say we did all that much in the first 3 or 4, and COVID didn't help, but nobody lost their focus, nobody lost their interest, and we've now really hit our stride. I think the World Cup opening in June will expose Centennial Yards to the world outside of Atlanta, but there'll be construction and meaningful development going on for, I got to believe, the next 4 or 5 years.
What I've also found is that you have some other hobbies and interests that are pretty good. Like, so, food is like really important in life. That picture on the right is a hole-in-one for a brand new novice golfer. Fishing. The other picture, which you can see, in the center, front and center, was the Ressler Cup in front of the Table of Wisdom, and I had to put a picture of my team captain Oliver with the winning trophy. Sorry, Nick, and of all of that. Like, as you think about this, a lot of times people go through life. We were kind of having a conversation. Nick and I were having a conversation about a certain leader that we all respect that said like they have no hobbies, like they're just they work all the time. I think the combination of hobbies, life, family, and I want to flip, which I think is to me one of the things that I respect the most out of you. Like, you have this incredible family, these brothers and sister who, as you described, helped raise you, and Jamie, didn't just marry you; she brought her whole family to you as well, and Sharon and Zeta and all these cousins that just like love each other, and the time that you spend together. As we kind of flip to your family unit and talk about something, very, very specific. I will say this, having known these boys for quite some time, you and Jamie have raised, throughout all of the time periods that we described, 3 young men of incredible values that have deep souls, kind, they're generous. That doesn't happen by accident. It's the pictures that I showed. And so you've got these, sons that now love you beyond being a father, that you're friends, like, you're close. You have an incredible daughter-in-law in Gabby, and now you are a grandfather.
Well, the good news is, yeah, we've had some good luck with the family, no doubt, and I would say that if I have 2 obsessions that you are hearing over and over again, I would have said, which do you prefer, the granddaughter or a championship? I would have said a granddaughter. But now that we have a granddaughter, I would say now we're focused again on a championship. But no, the fact that we did have our first grandchild, which of course we're like I'm sure anyone that's had their first grandchild would be ecstatic about, and yeah, it's trying to make sure that you could put in the time with your family. As you know well, but to put in the time with your family, with your business, and with your community is a lot easier said than done, and you try to do it to the best of your ability, and so far so good, but it's never perfect, but it's a work in process, and as I like to say, it's not a sprint, but a marathon, and I look forward to a long road ahead.
So you gave me full liberty to get personal, and I want to get personal for just a second. And you mentioned kind of the priorities in life. So when you are there with your granddaughter, and it's a private moment, and you are not Tony Ressler, you are grandpa, and you think about the world you want her to grow up in, you think about what you want her to know about this family that you and Jamie have helped to create. Like, what is it that you hope that she has in her that she takes away?
I don't get terribly emotional. I think she has so much going for her, and she has got so much good fortune that she has the whole world out in front of her. So my view is hopefully she'll do the best she can, and that's all you hope. Again, I say this with all my kids. I say this certainly with my granddaughter. They've been given a great deal of good luck and a great deal of good fortune. And how they use it is up to them. And I'm not a big worrier. I think that this world has an extraordinary amount of opportunity in it for people that look hard. And for those that don't look hard, they'll find their own way. But I don't get into the worry about everyone. If my wife were up here, she'd be the worrier in the family for sure. But my view is use what you have and do the best you can, and don't give it all that much concern.
So in closing, Tony, I want to just share that it's been a privilege being not only your friend and your partner, but watching you lead. I think for all of us, we have those people in our life that help to show us the way. And you're that for me. You're that for so many of all of us that care so deeply and fortunate. This kid from five towns that just wanted a pair of Puma Clydes that survived the collapse of a firm that helped train you and built not one but 2 incredible financial institutions, and kind of lives your life with loyalty and truth and belief in others. And as I think, for all of us as we go through these conversations, understanding that, you just said this, like, she'll find her path. There's a quote that you share with people that's really something that you believe in, your favorite quote. Can you maybe just share that with all of us and tell us what that means?
No, I've been saying it for so long. People are so sick of hearing it. But it's always been, if you don't quit, you can't fail. And you know, for me, you just keep moving. You just keep going. And if you go down one road and it doesn't work, you try another road. And if you try a plan and you don't get there, then you try a new plan. But you don't give up. And for me, it's always been just that. I have been exceedingly mediocre at most everything I've done, but I've not quit at anything I've tried, at least in the areas that were most important to me. So I say that all the time. I speak at schools all the time, and when I do, it's always, people always say, oh, I want to pursue my passion. I'm like, maybe you should pursue what you're good at over than your passion, and people get taken aback. But just like I say, if you don't give up, good things will happen eventually. So I appreciate it, and it's been obviously a privilege to be able to talk with you. I think, Mit, the good news is whatever you've learned from me and whatever you've seen from me, I've seen the same, frankly, and the commitment that you've had to your business and to your community and to your family is also something that makes me proud to be your friend, and I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tony Ressler. Thank you.
Please welcome Georgia State University student Heather Huynh to the stage for the award presentation.
Hi, nice to meet you, Tony. So good to meet you.
Oh.
Hi. Hi, everyone. My name is Heather Huynh, and I'm a senior at Georgia State University majoring in hospitality administration, and I'm this year's Hunter Conference intern. Tony, thank you so much for being so candid with your inspirational story for all of us today. I know that there are students in the audience listening in today who are just like me, as aspiring leaders who will continue to remember your story as we navigate through our professional careers and our personal lives. So that's why I'm so proud to represent the Cecil B. Day School of Hospitality and presenting this award to each year's Bharat Shah Leadership Series speaker. So thank you for being another fantastic example of somebody who has worked hard to achieve the American dream.
Thank you so much.
Oh, yes. Here you go. Yes, of course. Yes.
Beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Thank you so much. Never has someone gotten something that they deserve so little, but I accept, and I thank you all. Thanks so much.
Yes, of course.